First of all, thanks for everyone to jumping in. Great to see you all. My name's Zach. I head up the cloud team at the Learning People. I'm joined by Kieran, who heads up the IT department, Marisha, who heads up our career services, and Jenny will be helping us as well, just admitting people and eventually showing us some slides a little bit later on. So as a brief introduction, the purpose of this webinar, I suppose, is because we've had such a big, enormous increase in applications for people to start studying within cloud. If anyone's done any research, it is an enormously fast-growing industry. And with our certificates and our career services, we are having more and more people making this transition to make this opportunity. Before we go through and we talk about our learning and that opportunity that's there for people, we'll just let everyone know this is going to be recorded. So if you don't want to have a camera or anything like that, don't feel like you need to have it on, but just to let you know, obviously this will be recorded and it'll be sent out to you later on as well for everyone who comes in. What I'm going to do first of all is just tell you a bit more about what we actually do here at the Learning People. And I'm going to hand over to Kieran, who's going to do talk to you a bit more about our learning. So here at the Learning People, all of our learning is online. For those who don't know, we've been providing online learning for around 11 years now. We've got just over 25,000 current students globally. As I mentioned, cloud, the purpose for this webinar is to give people a bit more of an understanding on why people do look to move into cloud and the kind of opportunities that are there. We've had an enormous amount of increase, especially over the last year, for people who want that job security to make that transition in cloud being a great opportunity for them. What we essentially do with all of our students, the first step is to have a consultation with one of our consultants who will talk to you about what your background is, what you're interested in, why you want to make this transition, and then they can recommend the best qualifications for you from there. We'll support our students throughout all of the learning, giving them the education, the official certificates, and then the great work that Marisha and the team does supports all of our students move into the industry and find work. What we're going to do first of all is hear from Kieran, like I said, who heads up the IT department. He's going to let you know a bit more about how our learning is actually delivered and a few steps from there. I'll then take over and talk to you a bit more specifically about cloud and the kind of opportunities there. So Kieran, if you'd like to go ahead, mate.
Thanks, Zach. Hi, everyone. It is great to see so many people attending, and I can see from the names on the side, hello to a couple of you who I've been speaking to over the last couple of days. And really the question that I'm coming up against, which is the reason we're having this webinar, and this is speaking to new students daily, is kind of how our training is going to be delivered. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about our platform called Percipio. Feel free to give it a Google so you can see the partner behind it, Skillsoft, and really how big it is. But to give you an overview, it boils down really to three key things. So I'm sure all of you will learn in a different way. I know that I learn in a very specific way in the sense that I'm a kinesthetic learner, and everyone's got their own kind of three styles they'll be referring to. So you've got audio and visual and then kinesthetic. So when you're learning with us, we have a method for everyone. So the most common method is very short, bite-sized videos, which give you all the necessary information you need to gain your certificates. We then have a second piece where you have dedicated practice lab environments. So these help you get an understanding of the physical requirements of future roles you'll be performing, which is invaluable to yourself as a learner and also to the company who is recruiting you, as you can actually log the hours on your CV, which then become referenceable when you're going for different job roles. And it's a massive thing that's coming in within the IT industry. It can go on your LinkedIn profile as well. There's badges that you can attain, really, really important stuff. And then lastly, for those of you similar to me sometimes who prefer to read and take in information from books, we also have these available that you can download and view online. So there really is a way for everyone to learn whatever suits you best. Now, something that I am speaking to a lot of our younger learners about at the moment, particularly sort of the 17, 18-year-old bracket, is why this is so much different to academic learning that we're used to in colleges and universities. And really the difference between us and a university is an academic education. This is a professional certification. This is what an employer is looking for. And Percipio is something that will give you these skills to be able to go and get those professional qualifications, to then be able to do the role effectively, rather than just show that you're able to write an essay about the role. You will be able to perform this role. And that is why Pacifico is so fantastic and important. You'll have some massive names who use it. So you've got your likes of Amazon, AT&T over in America. They're a global company. Everyone who is going to be using this platform will see that the way that it's delivered is so key for each individual learning style, and that's why it's got such a great track record. So the second part of my piece that I'm going to be going through is a new feature that we have at the Learning People, which is a virtual classroom masterclass. Now, this is delivered by a registered CompTIA instructor who currently works in a security operations center in the RAF. Now, they are currently run every 2 weeks. They're recorded in case you want to play them back, or if you missed a part that you'd like to revise. And they focus on a variety of modules to help you specifically. So what we do is we track where you are in your learning journey, and then we invite you to the classes that are relevant to you. So we don't skip ahead and just invite everyone who's on the course. You need to have completed a certain set of modules, and then we invite you to the one that's going to help you. And this is a really personal touch that I haven't seen with any other learning provider. And as these are gaining more and more popularity, there's going to be scope to increase the frequency and, of course, to expand further into different course content. Now, the feedback that I've received already has been overwhelmingly positive. And being able for a learner to engage with an industry expert on a one-to-one basis has already shown to be a fantastic addition to our already strong repertoire of available resources. Some of which include, but aren't limited to, a live chat mentor service who are available from 2 or 10 p.m. Again, really, really key if you're stuck on a specific module, or there's a question that you just can't quite get your head around, they're there to help you whilst you're studying. So that's 2 out of 3. I think now we'll move on to the reason we're all here, cloud. So I'm going to give a quick overview of the industry before I pass back to Zach. So as Zach mentioned, we've had a surge in applications for our learning over the past sort of 3 to 4 months. And the big 3 cloud providers are Amazon Web Services, commonly referred to as AWS, who control a whopping 32% of the market share in cloud. They've actually recently reported a revenue increase of 28% looking at Q4 2021 versus Q4 2020, and is currently our most sought after training in cloud. So next up, we've then got Microsoft Azure, who control 19% of the market share. They've actually seen the most revenue increase for Q4 year on year, with a 50% increase in revenue. And then we've got the rising star and the challenger of Google Cloud, who are the 3rd largest cloud provider, but are also growing the fastest. They are investing heavily into the market. They are providing some absolutely fantastic solutions when it even comes to data and AI in the cloud. And they have seen a 40% increase in revenue year on year for Q4. So with all of these massive stats and the amount of money that is being pumped into cloud, it's no wonder that we're seeing such a massive surge in applications. So something that's really important to note down is that all of our learning pathways, first of all, will focus on teaching you to be vendor neutral. So this means that you'll be able to come into a role and be able to service a company in the majority of its cloud needs. And then what we do with each of our pathways is we finish them off with a chosen specialty. So whether it's AWS, Azure, or Google Cloud, but this doesn't stop you from learning more than one and becoming really sought after by potential employers. So I am going to pass you back over to the man himself, heading up cloud team, Zach, who is going to talk to us more detail around some of the roles you can expect to be applying for in the future. So over to you, Zach.
Thanks, Kieran. Thank you. Well said. And one thing I would like to echo and talk more about is this does vary for student to student, why it's so important to have a consultation with one of the specialists depending on what your background is, depending more importantly about why you actually want to make this transition and what you want, will change which pathways and qualifications we would recommend to suit you best. As Kieran mentioned, those big three giants, AWS, Azure, and Google. Amazon are by far the key players at the moment. They own around 32% of the market. And when we talk about the growth in cloud, Cisco, for those who know about Cisco, they're one of the key networking giants globally. They've predicted that around 94% of all workloads will be processed on the cloud this year, which is just on a constant rise. And the more that we rely on development within technology, the more we enable people to work from home and have this growth in the industry, the more that will increase as well. But coming back to a great piece that Kieran said about being vendor neutral, the most important thing for all of our students, particularly those changing their career progressors as well, but career changes, is being as employable as possible. So there's an organization, a vendor called CompTIA, if anyone hasn't heard of them. That's COM for Mike, PTIA. And CompTIA are one of the larger and certainly the more important of all the awarding bodies, because they are exactly that. They're vendor neutral and they're non-profit. We have been their learning provider around the world for many years, their key provider. And they actually certify you to work on all different operating systems. So as a career changer, we would always recommend, as Kieran said, to be certified by CompTIA initially, get some key, globally recognized qualifications. And this isn't just so that you have the understanding and the knowledge to then sit cloud-based education. It's also to build your credibility. We've been doing this for a long time now. And the most important thing to the majority of our students, especially those changing their career, is, if I'm going to do this, how do I know I'm going to be able to find work? It's always the big question about making a step. And getting the right qualifications, the right education, showing employers that you've invested into your learning is the best way to be taken seriously. And CompTIA, being a vendor neutral organization, enables you to be able to make that step into the industry very, very quickly. So when you're on if people do decide that cloud could be a great area for them, our consultants will always talk to you about your background. Always look at getting you certified with a vendor neutral organization first, like CompTIA, build that credibility, be as employable as possible, and then specialize in an area. My recommendation from my experience leading the cloud team will certainly be to be looking at AWS, because of how recognized and how in demand their education and services are within the industry today. When we actually talk about cloud and different positions that are there, cloud engineer is something that you're going to come across all of the time. There are many different roles within cloud, and I always try and recommend people to not take on too much too quickly and to confuse themselves. If the majority of our students are career changers, cloud administration is the best place to start. When you progress from cloud admin, so a cloud administrator can be maintaining cloud servers or software. It's the standard introduction role that people will move into the industry and work with. From there, cloud kind of branches off into a couple of different options. You have cloud engineering, and under a cloud engineer, you could be a software engineer, senior software engineer. There's many different positions under a cloud engineer, and that's the natural progressor for a career changer to move down. In fact, myself, I did a bit of research this morning just so I can have some up-to-date statistics. I searched for cloud-based job roles within the UK today, and I came back with around, it was 11,490 job roles or so. I wrote down 11,500 current vacant job roles around the UK today. And a lot of those roles will be cloud engineers, because that's a big umbrella of job roles underneath there. So for those of you who are interested in making this transition, natural step would be cloud admin. You'd work there for a year or two. You would then step up from there, if you wanted to, into cloud engineering. And then eventually you could move into cloud architecture, which are people with a bigger background, more experience, who oversee projects from their experience. There is a side road, which is cloud development. Now, I would only recommend someone to look into cloud development if they were very technical and they had a technical background. That would be for a very specific candidate. For me, my background, our students, our success certainly comes from moving people into these introduction roles. They can then find out what they're interested in, where they want to progress, and it, 9 times out of 10 into the engineering positions from there. When we talk about changing their career, obviously a big question we always get asked is earning potential. What kind of salaries can I expect? Everyone has a different background, different families, and I always, there's a lot of varying factors in here. Where are you based geographically? What experience do you have beforehand? How well can you sit and interview? Across the board, a career changer who's looking into cloud administration would be considering something between £26,000 and £32,000 as an entry-level salary in cloud admin. Any kind of research you do, a lot of people earn a lot of money in cloud. Average salaries for a cloud engineer, well, the average salary to work within cloud in the UK, across all research that you do, is around £85,000 a year. Now that will increase. You will obviously increase those earning potentials with experience. And that experience comes by very quickly when you have such a short amount of people within the industry, so few people qualified. When you gain that experience, you will earn those earning potentials. But for a career changer, where you are, just so people know, somewhere between 26 and 32,000, depending on the background, of course. Moving on from there, study duration is a big question that I get asked quite regularly. It all comes down to the student. Everyone's lives are different, as I just said, and I personally recommend people to study something around 10 hours a week. I feel anybody who's serious about changing their career, and really wants to make this progression, can find somewhere around 10 hours a week. I know our student care team will recommend 5 to 10 hours, which again is fine. For a career changer, the majority of the time students would study for a 9 to 12 month period would be realistic. Again, it comes down to how much education you're taking on board, how regularly you're studying, how well you take on the education. But most people, we would always recommend to expect to be qualified within that 12-month period. Again, course dependent, but very realistic. And it's key to remember as well with this education, cloud is developing so quickly. These qualifications are always being updated. We can't have people studying for long periods of time. Cloud development, software development, it's always changing and updating. It's important that our students maintain that they're up to date. They get the key recognized qualifications. And then, of course, they've got the support from our brilliant career services team, which I'm going to hand over to Marisha very shortly. And she can now talk to you about some of the great work that she does before we go into a bit of a Q&A piece. But Marisha, it'd be great to hear from you. Can you let everyone know a bit more about the great work that you and your team does?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name's Marisha, and I work on the career services team at Learning People. We launched at the end of 2019 to focus solely on supporting students to become job ready and navigate the job market with confidence. And we're on hand to provide industry-specific, impartial advice and support. A question that we come across a lot more now these days is, if I want a career in cloud, how am I going to get my foot in the door? Will a cloud certification help me if I don't have the required experience that is advertised? And the answer is yes, if you use it right. And that's where career services comes in. We'll take you through a 3-phase process that is tailored to your own chosen career path, whether you're a first jobber, a career changer, or a professional looking to upskill. So phase 1 is all about laying down those foundations in order to become a credible candidate, how to write your CV, using all of the necessary keywords and transferable skills, how to optimize your LinkedIn profile, how to start researching the tech industry, and identifying companies that you'd like to work for. And you'll have a one-to-one consultation with myself, and it will all be about on how you can make yourself stand out ahead of the competition. So while there are plenty of job opportunities out there, there is also plenty of competition. And if you are solely relying on making job applications via job boards, your journey is going to take that much longer to secure a role. Online job boards represent about 30% of available jobs. And if you're going to be up against often 100+ applicants for each role. So we'll guide you on how to utilise multiple different approaches along with job boards, and this will help to open up that hidden job market that we all hear about. So this is phase 2, and we'll take you through this. It's all about networking. We'll give you the tools and the confidence to proactively find professionals in the cloud computing field to build relationships with a focus on your mutual interest in cloud computing. So if you can prove your value to those contacts, and they might introduce you to their contacts, offer advice, and even act as references to job opportunities that aren't being advertised. We'll help you to own your own credibility and make good connections. And we worked only recently with a student who did all of this, and he secured a role with Amazon as a cloud security engineer. So networking is a bit of a superpower, as it lets you vet companies at the same time as they're vetting you. And it gives you a real awareness of who the good people are to work with, what teams are doing interesting things out there, and you set yourself up for much more likely for long-term career success. So along with networking, we'll be encouraging you to put what you're learning into practice as much as you can. And once you start having conversations with industry professionals, you'll progress on to phase 3. And this focuses on interviews, job application techniques, and working with recruiters. So with our own recruitment experience, we know what is needed from you to make your profile stand out in front of the competition. And no matter how you've been affected over the past year, whether you've been furloughed, made redundant, or you're simply seeking a career change, we're here to help you fast track your journey to employment. That's over to you, Zach.
Great, thank you, Marisha. And I can't echo enough the great work that Marisha and her team do. I know when we speak to students about their success and the feedback from them about their studies, it's always about the great work that Marisha does, opening those doors, growing that network, speaking to employers throughout your studying. For me, I think that's key, not waiting until you finish the education, but to be growing that network, speaking to employers throughout your studying. Open those doors throughout your learning. Once you're qualified, it will be a very easy step for that transition for you. That in total covers the majority of the information we wanted to look at today in the webinar. What I'd like to do now, Jenny, I know we had a couple of people email through some questions before the webinar. Can you do I think you put them together in a quick share screen for us? Okay, so Kieran, I'll take the first 3 if you don't mind. Marisha, I'm sure you can answer the last couple as well. So what happens if I fail an exam? Okay, so this is obviously a very common question. Now, this comes down to the credit and the great work that Skillsoft and that learning platform Percipio do. Essentially, Percipio is used by giants all around the world, as Kieran mentioned. Google, NASA, Apple, they all use that learning curriculum. So for the vast majority of all of our qualifications, we pay for unlimited exam resets. If it wasn't that way, your consultant would tell you that over the phone, but for virtually all of our cloud qualifications, CompTIA certificates, no matter what happens before you sit the exam, we provide test prep, we provide exam preparation, we provide exam guides. You can speak to the student care team who can prepare you for the exam mentally as well. So our average first-time pass rate's very high for Skillsoft. It's something like 92% of students pass the exams the first time they sit them with Skillsoft. But yeah, no matter what happens, we would always pay for unlimited resets, unless very rarely there wasn't that curriculum for it. Is there support for people with questions in their learning? Absolutely. I know that Kieran covered this earlier on. So from in the UK, from 2 till 10 p.m. Monday to Friday, there's one-to-one tutoring support through Skillsoft directly. With a lot of the entry-level qualifications that people sit, there is those live interactive classrooms, which are brilliant. You finish the curriculum, the mentor can then take you through, these are the key points. This is what you should be remembering. This is how to prepare for an exam. There's generally a lot more support than students actually need, but that's key to online learning. I'll answer that. Another one, Kieran, is there hands-on experience? Yeah, brilliant question again. And for cloud, this is vital, it's key. Amazon themselves on their website, they state that there is no second best to actual working in the industry, but there are many ways to gain that working experience and that hands-on practical experience than actually working in a job role. So we use what's called Live Labs. They are the official Live Labs, which is a live server where you can log into and walk through step by step all of the theory that you've been learning. And you can now conduct that in a professional working environment. And those labs are so brilliant, they're so up to date, Skillsoft, and we will actually consider all of the time that you spend in those labs. And so will the industry will recognize that as real working experience on your CV. And for me, when I talk about the learning, I think that's most important. I'm the same as Kieran. Practical learning, kinesthetic learning, that's the best way to take on the education. So I always recommend students take advantage of those labs. Kieran, would you like to answer a couple of questions we'd like to take on 4 and 5?
Yeah, I think just to echo that, Zach, the labs is probably my second favourite pitching point to be talking to students about after Marisha and her team. I think it's one of the most helpful things that we've got. And I think for those 2 questions you've given me, I've actually got some real world examples that I can give. So the first one is their reading material. Yes, we've got a current student called Ed, who's a really clever guy, and he is on the train a lot. So what he does is he actually uses the online reading material that we've got, downloads it onto his phone using the app, and then will read that on his commute. And finds that really, really beneficial. Does it with videos sometimes, but the reading material was really kind of something that he really liked when I caught up with him. And then for the 5th one, the cloud seems complicated. Where do people start? I've got a great example of this. One of my students called Henry is actually a bricklayer who's come back from Australia. And he got started on the cloud collection where we start you off with the CompTIA A+, and that's where we're typically going to get you started. And that gives you the foundation of IT in terms of software and hardware, and allows you to do troubleshooting and just understand the basics. And that, definitely tests your commitment. It's about a 70 to 80 hour course with 2 exams, but it's all multiple choice. You've got all of the support, and that's where the masterclass that I spoke about earlier really comes in, with that instructor from the RAF who's certified by CompTIA. So I hope that answers the questions for you.
Marisha, it'd be great to hear a bit more from you. Can you answer 6 and 7? I can see it's a really good question there, 6, both good questions. Can you take them? Can you answer them for
sure.
us, please?
So will a certification help me get a job after a career break of 7 years and no previous IT experience? Yes, absolutely. It is possible for you. But there are some key things that you'd need to do. If you're not working for 7 years and you don't have any IT background, it would be really essential that you make sure that you bring yourself up to date, get some really good world-class education and certificates. And the fact that you haven't worked for that long, to make that kind of investment like this would really show employers how serious you are about making this transition. And using the live labs that both Kieran and Zach have been talking about to gain that professional working experience would make a real big difference. I'd also consider doing some kind of voluntary work throughout your studies as well, if you can. And with all of that combined together, employers would definitely take you very seriously. And then the final question, what is a chance for a 40-year-old to get 40-year-old plus to get a job offer after the course? Well, another really valid question, and we often get this question, and the short answer is no matter what age, you absolutely still have time to career change into tech, and more specifically cloud computing. And we've got students from all walks of life and all ages making the transition. While you're studying and growing your skills, we'll encourage our students to participate in the tech community. It's a really important thing that we've been talking about, engaging with professionals in there, as I've mentioned, and will help you leverage your past experience to make it really relevant and valuable to future employers.
Yeah, great. And I'll also echo that last point, 40-plus-year-old getting a job after the course. Absolutely. When we're talking about an area that's in demand and responsible, like cloud computing, you need to have mature adults in place. When you look at average salaries, people earning £80,000 a year plus, you need to make sure that you have someone responsible that you can trust to conduct the nature of the work. The age, someone's age would not differ them at all from other applicants. In fact, it could benefit them in a lot of the case. Now that as a whole wraps up what we'd like to cover today. Jenny, if you can go to the next slide, I think you put Kieran's details there, contact details. So if you are interested in studying in cloud or absolutely having a career within cloud, like many of our applicants are, if you'd like to email Kieran, so it's kieran.thurston@learningpeople.co.uk. Otherwise, you obviously can inquire directly on our website, but reach out to Kieran if you'd like to give a brief summary of your background and what you're interested in doing. He can then put you through to the right consultant. He'll be able to talk to you a bit more, obviously, hands-on about cloud. What actually is cloud about? What kind of job roles would be there for you to have that consultation, break down the certificates, and obviously let you do a bit more research from there. So from me, Kieran, Marisha, and Jenny, it's been great obviously having you all here. It'd be great to obviously have your students if you do want to make this transition. Thank you everyone for coming, and I look forward to speaking and hearing from you soon. Take care, everyone. Take care.